Good morning. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Today is December 7th, and we have our finance meeting from 8 to 10 this morning. Thank you for joining. And first, I guess approval would be to go over the minutes from last meeting. Is there any comments? If not,
I'll move to approve.
I'll move
to approve.
There
There you go.
like, girl, just come in and see me. It's not hard. Well, yeah.
is there a second?
Okay,
Just give it to me. And I will. What? Where the hell she thinks she's going now?
since you have a motion from Sherry, and I think Amy is requesting a second, and I will just interject that if you do need to step away from your device, to please mute yourself, so that we don't have to have the entire group listen to the background discussion. So please extend that courtesy to everybody.
Okay. But I need a certified copy.
I see on the chat, Laura has second.
Alrighty, thank you, Laura. Is all approved?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, I guess I'm not able to open the chat as we're
I don't see
On
anything
this.
in there.
Do you want me to read the number to you?
I was just making sure everybody approved.
Thank you. And I would just say again, did you declare the motion approved, Amy?
Yes.
Okay, so before we continue, let's just kind of cover this as a learning experience. This is our first time officially using Zoom for the finance meeting. We're doing the same thing with the other ESS committees. Thank you, Lisa, for posting the telephone number that you can use to dial in to join by phone. And I would just say, again, as a courtesy to everybody, I believe we do have the ability, if we know who's speaking or hear background noise, the ability to mute you. But just as a courtesy, everybody should try to pay attention to your background noise. We know not everybody has a nice quiet private area to do a video conference meeting, so we make do with what we have. And then I would also just affirm that if you are in a situation where the audio is just simply not working for you, or you can't join by the phone number, that if you can hear, it is acceptable to make a motion, or to make a second, or to vote on a motion by entering a message in the chat pod. There is one stipulation that I would suggest, and that is that it is important that we have you identify yourself. So it looks to me like the person who is dialed in probably is somebody that's already in the meeting. So you're listed as the telephone number if you go through the participant list. And I wonder if whoever's on the line could just give a shout out to identify yourself on the telephone. I mean, if you could,
sure.
please.
So it's Lisa. Somehow I lost computer audio, so I dialed in.
Okay, so if you do need to dial in, it may be your telephone number, not your name showing up, and it is important that we have a record of who participates. So please try to do that, and also that's for the benefit of census who's trying to take meeting notes and knowing who's talking, who's making motions, etc. Okay, enough with the housekeeping lectures. Sorry about that. But we'll continue to monitor the chat pod if there is a desire to communicate that way. And we are now at the next part of the agenda. Amy, I'll let you call that out.
Alrighty, the accounts receivable aging summary. Do you have any comment on this, Lisa?
Yes, so there's two items. They're both very recent. Hirschlaw is sending a check. That firm is in transition and being purchased by another firm. So that check is in the mail. And then Simplifile, long story, has to do with the Dallas County conversion to a new service provider and a group kind of getting stuck. So we're working with them to get a check or an ACH to resolve that. So I don't really have any concerns about either of these.
Thank you, Lisa. And next is a transaction list by date.
Okay, these are just a part of the monthly summary of payments. And for those of you who are new, we do this every month, just basically to review the things that we would spend money on. And so if we're using the project credit card, or if we are having the bank issue payment to a vendor, those are accumulated, and then we review them essentially concurrently or timely in the same period with the Finance Subcommittee. And this would be similar to what you might see in another public meeting where the payment of bills is approved. And so we're going to go through that basically for the transactions that occurred through the month of November and answer any questions that you have. And typically we call out a few things that may not be in the usual list, and I'm going to do that again today. And then I would just add to that for anybody that is not familiar with the financial operation is that the vast majority of our transactions are fully electronic and do not involve human interaction. So we receive money through ACH deposits from most of our customers. Some of them pay with a credit card, and that is considered revolving income. And then when we make a distribution to the counties for your point of sale or your e-submission money, that is also considered a revolving expense. And we do not review that in detail every month. We'll consider that as a part of the regular financial report, which we'll get to next. So for the month of November, this is the transaction list where we received a bill from a vendor and then made a payment to it. And I have called out a few things that would not be in the ordinary list. One of them, or the first one, in the amount of $4,000 is a payment to Light Edge Solutions. This is a migration payment or a project payment that we made a decision that we were going to migrate to a managed firewall for the Iowa land record system. This is not a recurring monthly expense. It's a one-time expenditure, and that is a payment that we have made. The next one that I've highlighted is a payment to Brenda Clark Hamilton, who was a speaker at the Deputies Conference, and I'm not sure why the payment was delayed until November, because the event was actually back in September, but that is a legitimate payment to our speaker at the Deputies Conference. And then the last one I've identified is an amount of $791.40 to Dallas County. And the memo is relating to a processing error. I'm going to defer to Lisa to give further explanation to that one.
So this correlates to the accounts receivable, in that during the conversion, a group was processed on the county side and got stamped and recorded, but during the conversion, there was some confusion about how some processes were working, I think. Anyway, got paid, it got recorded on the county side, But the submitter did not get charged and did not receive copies of the recorded documents. It wasn't anything to do with the e-submission process of something not processing correctly. It had everything to do with the county. So anyway, this goes back to what we are collecting from Simplifile, and we made this payment so that the county would be whole by the end of the month.
Okay. And just to clarify, the transition that you're referring to is the change in Dallas County from using the COT system to the Fiddler system. That is the transition
Correct.
that is being referred to. So things like this do happen when service providers change. So thank you, Lisa, for that explanation. Let me go ahead and cover the credit cards, and then we'll open it up for any questions that you may have. There are a couple of things that I highlighted, and they just simply relate to payments for census to participate in a couple of legislative meetings. There are luncheons that are typically sponsored by the Greater Des Moines Partnership and or another chamber like the Ankeny Area Chamber of Commerce. And this is an opportunity for census to not only hear what the priorities are going to be from legislative leaders, but also to have some visibility in front of legislators as well as other lobbyists and policymakers who may be in attendance. So those are the two that I called out. There are a couple of mislabeled that I've asked the staff to correct. The lunch that referencing the executive committee, it was not the executive committee, it was the ESS coordinating committee for their November 8th meeting. That was a lunch provided to them for those who were in attendance. So with that, I'm going to step back and answer any questions that the committee members may have about payments in November. And if any of our guests today want to submit a question, happy to answer any question from you as well. You can enter it into the chat pod, or you can join the audio if you wish to ask your question about that. And if there are no questions, we would request a motion to accept and approve the payment reports for December.
This is Geraldine, and I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Geraldine.
This is Amy. I wasn't sure if I could second as a chair.
You can, you're still a committee member, Amy.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay, then I'll make a second.
Okay.
And is that all approved?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Hearing none, motion is approved.
Thank
And
you.
Next we'll move on to invoices.
Okay, this is a reimbursement invoice at the Fund 255. And we are doing 2 payrolls this month out of Fund 255 because there are sufficient resources in the account. Total amount is $60,614, and this is the actual copies of the invoices associated with those activities. This is just simply evidence that we provide to the state treasurer's office that these are real expenses that we seek reimbursement for. I would just add as a kind of a parenthetical note that we are going to be having a meeting with the Office of the State Treasurer here very soon before the holiday, just to talk about how things are going. They've had a recent staff change. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of procedures that we're following. And one of the things that we're going to talk with them about going forwards, and hopefully starting in January, is that instead of, we'll still provide evidence of expenditures, but basically we want to begin to associate the income stream from Fund 255 to just simply be whatever the income was in the preceding month, and then make the transition of resources from Fund 255 into the ESS bank account, more based on income rather than on individual expenses. The other thing that I would mention is that there are some potential changes coming up in the next couple of years, particularly with regard to fees and payments. And one of the things that can be considered as a part of that is just changing the way that the Fund 255 system operates. Currently, all the counties gather up their money through the treasurers and then send it to the state treasurer's office, and then we draw down the money from that account. We're going to begin a conversation with them about possibly changing that so that that the monies would be directed to ESS directly rather than through the state treasurer's office. That was the right thing to do back in 2005. We've been through, I don't know how many audits since then, and there just is a potential for change. And I would be remiss if I didn't also say that, the very core of that $1 fee could be modified as well, because there is going to be a policy discussion about restructuring recording fees, and this should be one of the factors that could change. I'm not proposing a change right now. I'm not trying to say that it is definite, but it definitely is a possibility. So this is the way we're doing it now. We're going to suggest an easier way to handle it with the state treasurer's office when we meet with them later this month. We'll see what they say. And then as there is future policy discussion, there could be further adjustments in this whole part of the fee structure. So for now, I'm requesting approval of the subcommittee to submit this reimbursement invoice to the Office of the State Treasurer.
This is Laura. I'll make an approval to accept the proposed bill.
This is Sherry. I'll second it. Amy, you're muted. Phil, did you see Lisa had a question in the chat pod?
Let me switch over to that. Thank you. Yes, we do. There is actually, it's going to be in the financial reports, but it's over $160,000, something like that right now. But that will be in the financial reports I'll be presenting to you shortly. Is Amy with us?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Okay, so we're ready. I believe we're ready for a motion.
We had a motion and a second.
Okay,
Me
okay.
or, I'm not normally in Charles City, I'm sorry. No.
And I guess I'm sorry. This is in regards to the payment for payroll and so forth, correct?
We're on the reimbursement invoice
Okay.
for Fund 255.
And there's a motion and a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Alrighty, motion is approved.
Okay, thanks, guys. See ya.
Thank you. Sorry for, we had a customer.
Okay. I think I've got the questions answered. And was the motion approved? I just want to clarify.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion is
Then
approved.
we, if you're ready, we can move on to the financial reports. And if any of the guests today have any questions as we go through this, we're going to run through it fairly quickly. We do not present financial reports typically until the accounts have been fully reconciled. And so we're looking backwards in time, and this is for the period of October. When we have our quarterly meetings, we usually look also at quarterly reports and year-to-date reports.
Thank you. I'll give that to you later.
I'm trying to identify who that may be so that I can mute them. In any event, well, I'll proceed with the financial reports. This is the banker's trust statement. We had a beginning cash balance in the bank account of $1,185,000 and change, and we had an ending balance of $1,250,223. For our guests, most of this are e-submission and point of sale transactions. We don't go through all of them individually. The proof and the tasting of the pudding really comes to the point where we get to the reconciliation report. There are two reconciliations that we do with regard to our main operating account. One of them is that we do have a drawdown, or sometimes you might think of it as an escrow account, for a few of our customers, including CSC and the Iowa Department of Revenue, who put money up front in the account, and then they draw down from it when they do their e-submissions, and we reconcile that account every month. So the cleared transaction balance in the drawdown account at the end of October was $67,810. Then the reconciliation report for the bank account itself, we basically try to do reconciliations daily. So when you look at a report, your beginning balance is not going to be the beginning balance at the beginning of the month. That's basically the beginning balance of the previous day. And the thing that we're looking for to make sure that the accounts are complete and accurate is the cleared balance. So the cleared balance is $1,250,223.04. And if I were to go back up to the top of the bank statement, you can see that the ending balance also is $1,250,223.04, which is exactly what we want to see as that ending balance. So essentially what that confirms is that our bookkeeping system is matching up with the bank account. That's what we do. And so the profit and loss statement for the month of October shows that we had budgeted income of $123,572, which I've highlighted. And then the gross income, which includes all the revolving income, was $2,816,000 and 335. Then moving on, you can see that the budget expenses for the month was $107,891.21. So that's, you're comparing that against the budgeted income of $123,000. And then the net income overall, this includes both revolving and budgeted income and expenses. The net income is $20,435. The balance sheet in the month of October, and again, we're talking about the main operating system and as represented primarily in our Baker's Trust account, but it also does include both our physical and intellectual property assets. Total assets and liabilities of $202,457,311. The total Baker's Trust settlement account is $1,717,000. And the reason that would be higher than what the bank statement said is because our accounting system is based on an accrual system. So there is, I guess, I don't know if this is the right technical term, but sort of undeposited income in the period that isn't in the bank account yet. And that's why it is what it is. In terms of the balances, we have several reserve accounts, the most significant of which is the software development and equipment maintenance reserve, which we used substantially during the last year and a half to create the new search application and make other updates to the system. we have $53,875 in the redaction reserve. I want to just make sure everybody on the subcommittee knows that we have sufficient resources in the reserve account for the redaction reserve to do any backfile redaction that any county needs to have done. We evaluate that on a monthly basis, and we're in a very good position. So if you know of any counties that might have believed or heard a rumor or whatever it may be, that, hey, I got to hold back on my backfile, that just simply is not the case. We have sufficient reserves to deal with the backfile process, and I would encourage everybody to continue to make use of that. Then the next account that we look at for reconciliation is the credit card account. Now, when we were doing this report, we usually don't go into the details of every single transaction because we've already done it. So we did discussion of the October transactions back in the previous meeting. This month we reviewed the November transactions. But what we look for is our accounting system correct? Is it properly accounting for any credit card transaction? And we do that through the reconciliation process. So the beginning balance was 5,947.78, and we had an ending balance of 6,144.91. And then we look at the reconciliation report, and you can see that our account does reconcile. This is the Fund 255 report. Now, in answer to Lisa's question earlier, the balance as of this month, at the end of October, was 162,974.28. We generally have a sort of an unofficial target to try and maintain a balance of about $100,000 in this account. And so that's a judgment about how many payrolls we can pay for out of a particular month, and trying to predict that can sometimes be tricky, and that's why we're going to suggest that maybe we just move to the income amount for each month, so that it's less of a guessing game. The actual balance, I believe, is going to be higher than the 162,000 as of the end of November, but we have not received the November statement yet from the state treasurer's office. So that is why we are doing things the way that we are. The account has been successfully reconciled, and the balance sheet again matches up with the reconciliation report. And then this is the P&L statement for the month of October. Any questions? That really completes the financial report discussion. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I do have the chat pod open. If there is a written question, and any member of the subcommittee or a guest that is with us today, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question if you desire at this time.
I appreciate the explanations, Phil, and it's a good refresher for some of us existing members as you're going over the financials on what everything means.
Under disbursements, tell me where exactly you're looking at. In terms of the state treasurer's report, well, up until the 28U agreement was amended, the bank account actually was with the Iowa County Recorders Association, and this is one of the things that we can talk to the state treasurer's office about, maybe to update that. But this is actually a report that they generated, so we can work with them on that. It technically should say electronic services system, but it doesn't. No problem. Glad to answer. I would say, I wouldn't be correct in saying this, but we had one person that we worked with in the state treasurer's office for many years, and that allowed us to have a degree of consistency and understanding about how things work. And in the last year or so, we've had different staff people that may not have the history, and so in fact, the reporting. And again, not to be critical, has been a little bit more variable than it has been in the past, which we understand. And we just work through some of those inconsistencies. But overall, we have a very good working relationship with the Office of the State Treasurer, as well as with the Office of the State Auditor. Okay, so before I forget, we would officially ask for your acceptance and approval of the October financial reports.
This is Geraldine. I'll make the motion to approve the reports.
This is Amy, I can second.
Thank you, everyone.
And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Ready, thank you. Motion is approved, Phil.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you like me to move forward with the strategic financial part of the discussion?
Yes, please.
Okay, so what I have on screen right now that everybody should see is the latest version of our e-submission trends report. You'll see that dot that is highlighted in the gold color is a reflection of the e-submission activity in the month of November. So the account activity is down as it was in 2022, a little less than 25,000 documents were electronically submitted and recorded. That's a bit below what our target is, and we'll just have to see how all of that plays out as we do the end of year financial reports. At the most recent ESS coordinating committee, and I think we may have mentioned this in the finance subcommittee last month as well, is that action was taken to approve a final budget amendment for calendar year 2023. And we are working to manage expenses as best we can. We did take a personnel action to reduce the hours for one of our staff positions. And there are a number of discretionary marketing activities that we simply stopped doing, simply because we're looking for ways to preserve resources and see if we can get closer to a balanced budget. We're not far off. We actually made quite a bit of progress toward that goal in the past 3 months, but there's a little bit more work to do as we prepare to finish out the calendar year. And in terms of our financial position with our reserves, I think we are still in very solid shape, but it's not something that we can continue to do indefinitely. And so as a part of the discussion that we had in November with both you as well as with the ESS coordinating committee, is that we're undertaking a review of a number of our expenses and looking for opportunities to reduce costs if possible, or at least to verify that we're not paying any more than we should do that. One of the things that we're looking at is a transition to managed services for the basic equipment and all of the technical things that are necessary to operate our e-submission service and the websites that we manage directly. It is kind of a system, I think you would say, is that there are a lot of moving parts in our land records, and it is not a simple thing to do an integration with 99 counties. And so we made some difficult decisions as a part of the budget making process for 2024. Aside from the staff adjustment, we have made a decision that we're going to take some monies from the reserves to take care of some technical expenses, technology expenses, and we also made a decision to reduce the amount of funds allocated to the equipment maintenance cost sharing credits. And so we are going to be implementing those. A message was delivered to the recorders recently, verified to them what the likely maintenance invoice was going to be, and to also inform everybody that the maintenance credits are probably going to be less than they were in a previous year by about 30%, which is not insignificant. We understand that is a material thing, particularly for some counties, but it is necessary to do during this period to balance the ESS budget because, as you can see from the chart, overall recording activity is down. And as the real estate economy is down, and we're sure that recording activity in individual recorders' offices are down as well, and it's an adjustment that we're all having to make. And certainly as a part of this conversation in the future about recording fees and recording budgets generally. So some other things that we are doing is that now that we've made the move to a managed firewall service, we continue the conversation with our primary technical host, which is LightEdge, a data center out in Altoona, about the possibility of, instead of purchasing new equipment for the Owl Land Record System, to consider whether or not we would move to a managed service. And so those discussions have been held, and basically the choices are that we're probably looking at sometime by the end of 2024, expenditures upwards in the region of $200,000 for the purchase of new equipment, or is there an opportunity to move to managed service and make that more of a kind of a standard monthly expense that we spread out over time? And so what I'm showing you, what you should see, is part of a slide deck that was prepared by LightEdge. I'll be presenting this to the ESS Coordinating Committee next week at a special meeting. But basically what this does is it outlines what the structure of a managed service, and essentially, even though when we talk about moving things to the cloud, it just basically means moving off of dedicated equipment to basically shared resources in a data center. Some people move to the Amazon cloud, some move to Microsoft's Azure cloud. There are many different facets of the cloud out there, but it's also possible for a robust data center like the one operated by LightEdge to essentially be a cloud service. And so this would be a service that they would provide. Basically, we would migrate all of our systems from our dedicated equipment to the equipment at their data center. And we would also benefit from having the technical support of the staff that operate that equipment and data center, rather than relying specifically on one person, in our case, which is our technical lead, Kelly Wallace. This is a description of what the potential benefits are, and then discussion of the outline of what the proposal would actually be, where they would provide virtual machines as well as storage for backup, dedicated firewall that would be associated with our operation, and internet bandwidth. And here's where the bottom line comes into play. So if you look at this particular chart, we're looking at the purchase of new services and new equipment. We would be doing this in lieu of, that is, instead of purchasing additional equipment to replace our current equipment sometime in calendar year 2024. And instead of paying a lump sum for new equipment, we would be paying a monthly fee to them for the equipment, the internet, the virtual machines, the backup, and all the things that we need to provide not only the operation of the system, but also the system security. And we currently, with the hosted, the rack and the location of the equipment of the data center right now, plus the managed firewall that we started this past month, we're paying Collided now about $4,000 plus a month for those services to essentially replace all of our equipment and go to a managed service. We're looking about a little less than $8,000 a month going forward for the operation of our entire system. This, from our point of view, appears to be a reasonable fee. It is not more expensive. It is a little bit less expensive than purchasing our own equipment, or what that would be if and when we do that. If you consider the total cost of owning the equipment and the support that goes with it. And it also is something that we could spread out over a month-to-month basis instead of making big purchases, which likely would come from the reserve funds. So we're looking at a proposal of about $8,000 a month, $4,000 of which we're already paying for our dedicated services. So to be able to have a managed service for an additional $4,000 a month appears to be a fairly reasonable expense. And so Kelly and I are reviewing this right now. Not making a recommendation today. There is still a little bit of work left to do, nor am I asking the Finance Subcommittee to take any action or to even endorse this. But I want you to be aware of it. This is a very significant change. It would be considered a milestone in the history of the project, and I wanted to make sure that we discussed this with you. And so Kelly asked in the chat pod, is this a monthly fee? Basically, the answer is, I'll answer several of your questions. Yes, this is a monthly fee of about $8,000. Do we have to sign a contract for long term? Yes, the proposal is to do a 36-month term, but that is no different than the way we've done business with them since 2007. We've always had a 36-month term, and then as the term comes up, then we talk about changes, and then we do it again. 36 months, in my opinion, is not really that long term in this world we live in. So it is a 36-month term for this. And the other thing that I would be asking them to do is to align all of our services to the same term, so that we didn't have some things expire here and then another set of things expire there. Everything would be within that 36-month term. And the question is, if it crashes, do they have backup? And yes, there is redundant backup here that would be more than sufficient to bring us back up. And I would consider the security to be very robust to help prevent us from hacking and ransomware and other things. So the Lighters folks are they're very professional. They provide good service. We've had a long-term working relationship with them, which has been very successful. I think one of the big risks that we face as a system, as an organization, is we've done a lot with the little resources. I know it seems like our budget is big, but when you consider what it takes to operate a system like this, and then you look at how few people that we have that are really doing all the work, I would say we're a fairly lean team. But a vulnerability that we have is that we really have one technical lead, who is Kelly Wallace, that really understands the operation of the system of itself. And if something happens to him, we're in a vulnerable spot in terms of keeping the overall system up and operating on a day-to-day basis. If we go in this direction, we don't just have Kelly, we still have him, but we've got a team of engineers working with us at Light Edge to ensure that those systems are up and that the backups are done. I hope that wasn't too long-winded, but my answer is yes, they have backup and they do have redundant systems, which we would take advantage of and which are a part of this proposal. Again, I'm not asking for action today. I just want you to be aware that this discussion is happening and that the discussion is imminent. It's not going to be something that we carry on for months and months. It's something that we're going to have to decide in the near future, because if we don't do something in this direction now, then we're again looking at, okay, sometime in 2024, we're going to have to be making a capital equipment purchase, because we're near the end of life of our current equipment. Great question, Kelly, maybe more than you intended. Other questions or comments? Okay, then I'm going to move on and say that this isn't the only thing that we're looking at. So another thing that we're looking at is that a fairly substantive expense on a month-to-month basis is our IT support services for office operations. We have worked with a company called All Covered for a number of years to do that. And because this is a substantive budget item, and also because there are certain things that we wish were better in our IT support here in the office, we have gone through a process of issuing an RFQ. I have acted as a surrogate for the project in this, and by that I mean we issued the RFQ in the name of my company, Enterprise Iowa. And the main rationale for that is that there are some IT companies that just don't want to deal with the government bureaucracy. They want to they don't have time to respond to 150-page RFP. And that's not really what's called for here. So in lieu of having ESS issue an RFQ, we issued an RFQ in the name of Enterprise Iowa. But a clear intent is that if we enter into a new service relationship with another IT support company, that it would be in the name of ESS. So I don't want anybody to be concerned about that. We have interviewed several companies in the greater Des Moines area. And we certainly have talked to our current service provider, but there are other larger companies that responded who they have a network operations center and they have a fairly robust system. There are others that are the small companies that kind of may not have a lot of staff, but they have technical expertise, and they may be the right fit for that small business. And then there are some that are in between that have that ability to provide that personal touch, that customer service, but they also have pretty deep technical capabilities. And I would say that was kind of the sweet spot we were looking for. So there are a few companies that were withdrawn. There are some companies that we declined because they just did not have the bandwidth or the depth that we needed to support our administrative operations. And then there were a couple of other companies that we have declined because they're too big. They just have too many irons in the fire. And even though they have a lot of technical capabilities and a number of engineers working for them, their business model is very similar to what our current service provider does. So we have narrowed it down to two companies. One of them is called Iowa Solutions. They're actually based in Hiawatha, but they do have offices here in western part of Des Moines. And then the other company is called Diamond. Diamond is also located nearby. And they have submitted proposals as well. It is not my intention to have you go through this in a great deal of detail. The proposals are a little bit different, but I think the thing that I would say is that in either case, I think these companies are right sized for serving the needs of the ESS administrative team, and they're more close to the budget that has been approved than other proposals that we received. There are other proposals that we received that are substantially more expensive, and that we declined partially for those financial reasons. There are others that were less expensive, but again, just didn't have the depth of service that we felt we were looking for. And these two sort of fit into that sweet spot. The Iowa Solutions proposal does have an initial onboarding expense, and their estimated recurring monthly expense is somewhat close to, and maybe even a little bit less than what we budgeted this year. Although there's some supplemental fees that probably would boost that up a little bit. The Diamond proposal, I would put in the category of, looks very good from the standpoint of not having a lot of upfront costs, but on the other hand, their pitch is kind of to say, we want you to make that 36-month commitment to be with us, and so they have very, very low onboarding costs, but their monthly costs are a little bit higher than what Iowa Solutions is. And I am just going to share with you that I think both Kay and Lisa have been involved in the final round of interviews, and I think the word I get from them is that that either of these companies could serve our needs. I think they would generally say that one maybe is a little deeper than the other, but still both should do the job. I have also spoken to the references provided by both of these companies, and both references for each of them spoke very highly of the services that they provide. So at the end of the day, one of the things that we found is that what we budgeted for is pretty close to what the market bears. In fact, the market overall probably supports a higher monthly IT expense than what we budgeted for. So this decision is going to end up not being a big cost saver, but I think it will result in better service to the members of the ILR team. So I just want you to be aware that discussion is taking place. And then I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to share a different document now, so bear with me. See if I can pull that up. And what you should be able to see is a spreadsheet. Can you confirm that you can see a spreadsheet now?
Yes, now.
Okay, Thank you. And so this is where I'm going to step out of the conversation because one of the things that we've also been exploring is alternative office space. Again, not making a recommendation today, not asking for any committee action. This is for your information. But I have asked Lisa and Kay to take the lead on this because honestly, I obviously do have a conflict of interest since I'm providing the current office space for the staff. And I wonder if I could just ask Lisa and Kay to just make a few brief comments.
Yes, but before you do, Melissa has a question about, I think it was the tech proposals. So Mel, if you want to put that in the chat pod,
Yeah,
we can
go
finish that
ahead.
conversation up.
I'm sorry, I
Phil,
didn't mean.
just put it in there. You didn't miss anything. So we're going to wait for her to enter her comment, and then new pricing after December 2nd. I didn't see a date for Diamond.
Yeah, they the pricing is going to be the same. You know, if we decide to go one way or the other, there's still a negotiation ahead of us. So I'm not worried about the pricing. We've been in regular communication with both firms and they know where we're at. They know I have to go through a committee process. And so my intention is to do some further analysis and to make a decision on a recommendation. It would be my intent to take a recommendation to the ESS Coordinating Committee at their meeting next week. And I have notified our current service provider that we will be changing systems. So I'm not worried about losing the benefit of a pricing proposal. It'll be a negotiation in the end. And that's what I intend to do.
Mel, are you good with this before we move on? Yes, at next week's meeting on the 12th. The recommendation will be at next week's meeting on the 12th. Correct, Phil?
I do intend to make my recommendation at the ESS meeting next week on December 12th, yes.
Okay, so moving on to office space, which is another item we've been reviewing for cost. What you see on the spreadsheet that Kay has put together, I have to tell you that she has done the lion's share of work on this with the ability to ask myself or Corey questions. Corey has some experience in finding office spaces for a previous employment, so she's been a really valuable resource as well. So there was an RFI distributed to multiple commercial realtors in the metro area with some areas that we would be interested in. These are the ones that came back. We have visited everything except, I believe, the Ridgemont location. Kay highlighted anything in yellow that would be out of the budget that was allowable. And we're continuing to review and we'll plan to make a recommendation at no later than the February meeting. There are benefits to staying here. There are benefits to moving. So we have to come up with what's the best plan for currently, given the budget that we're working with and the team size that we have right now. So, and that's not saying anything about a team size changing, just the people that we have, making sure everyone's got a good space for working. Knowing that if we move, we need to purchase furniture. Kay's got some costs in there. We would have to hire some movers. We would, in some places, need to rent a conference room if it's available, unlike here where it is available to us all of the time. So those are things to think of. Some places, the phones we own, so those would move with us. They're VoIP, but there are things that we would need to purchase that indeed do belong to Phil and have been provided to the project. Does anyone have any questions about that? And Kay, do you have anything you wanted to add?
This is Amy. I guess, can you refresh me again? Why are you needing to move?
We don't need to move. There was a commitment, I believe, made by Phil to the ESS committee that we would investigate, you know, what costs are out there to make sure that if we say, yes, this is the best place to be here, that it is comparable, you know, expense. Phil, does that fairly explain that?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, can you jump in if you want to?
I would just add the comment, you know, that nothing lasts forever, right? And I do think it's appropriate for the project to say, okay, what is our long-term home going to be? What's that going to be? You know, I'm not making any announcements here. I'm not trying to separate, but you know, when we started, the project had nothing. I mean, we started with zero, and all we had was the money from the initial fee that was charged, and then we used that to create the Iowa land record system. So, for the entire history of the project, the ESS and Iowa land record system has been housed with me and my company. And it made sense to do that because there were no resources in the beginning. And until Eastern Mission really took off, that was still the case for most of those years. But now that we're at the stage where we're at, even though we've got a down year because of the economy, the ESS system needs to stand on its own at some point. And I think this is an appropriate discussion to have. And, you know, I'm a big boy. We will make adjustments as necessary. And I think the accommodation that I asked for from the ESS committee was to provide 90 days notice. And so that was approved as a part of the amendment to the MOU at the last meeting. And so I think it's a legit thing for the committee to have two independent staff people looking at options and then, you know, kind of looking at the pros and cons and then, you know, deciding whether or not is now the time, is next year the time. There will be a time. We know that for sure. So it's just making the best choice at the right time. And I appreciate the work that that Kay and Lisa have done in doing the research and working with the private brokers to decide that, so, or to investigate it. So I wanted you to be aware of it. This has been going on, and it's been a part of the discussion with regard to the memorandum of understanding and contract between EI and Enterprise Iowa and the project for actually several years now. This is not a new conversation. We're just starting to get into some of the details that will have to be addressed whenever that day comes. I know we're out of time. I just want to finish off with just a quick update that the fee, the recording fee modernization and the recording service modernization project is underway. The fee committee is going to be having their first meeting next Thursday. It's going to be from 9 to noon, and this is going to be a multi-month process. So we're going to deliberatively go through what the options are. We're going to do research. We're going to do financial modeling, and we're also going to be very engaged with stakeholders in the discussion, all of them, and we are going to be continuing to look at modernization in terms of policy and practice as well. Those things are all going to be happening concurrently. Gosh, I've lost track of time. I think it was yesterday. We had a meeting with Stacy and Nancy and Megan just to kind of talk about what the agenda for the meeting next week was going to be and sort of how we're going to proceed. And so we have an agenda put together. I'll be distributing that to everybody today. And then the other thing that we put together not too long ago was a kind of what we call the charter document that described what the overall project is going to be and what the timeline will be. And Nancy and Megan and Stacy asked me to update that document and to share that with the working groups as well. And it would be my intent to circulate that to the finance subcommittee as well. So you have an opportunity to see that. And it will be an interesting process. So we're looking forward to it. And since this has got a whole lot of work ahead of her, and so do I, we're going to be proceeding with that. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has a question on that topic before we adjourn. Other than that, I would just say, please talk to your districts about your participation. If you have a term expiring, talk to your folks about, nominations. Make sure that Nancy receives the nomination so that we can present that to the governing board, the ESS coordinating committee, and her. And then we're going to be asking the executive board of the association to also be looking at appointments to the ESS committee itself here very soon. So don't forget to have those conversations with your colleagues in each of your districts and pass the information on to Nancy, and if you have a chance, CC us as well, just so we know what's going on. I don't have anything further. Chairman Amy, thank you.
Thank you. I guess I do have one thing, Phil, that for the fee committee, you're not looking at this year's legislation, correct?
The fee legislation, that we just made a determination that this is not just me, but Stacy and Nancy and Megan, that just trying to spring a fee proposal in the 2024 session is just not a successful strategy. So all of this is going to lead up to the 2025 legislative session.
Thank you.
Could you repeat that, Amy? Because you were silent, sir.
I just said thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'll share information about the upcoming coordinating committee meeting next week with you. But in the meantime, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Drive safely, whatever you're doing. Everybody be well.
Thank you. You
Merry
too, Phil.
Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.